What's up guys, it's Cody here. And in 6 days, we are going to know exactly what the new iPhone is going to look like, what type of components it's going to have, and how much it's going to cost. Now, of course, I'm excited, and you guys probably are too, about everything else that's going to be announced at the iPhone launch event. But in this video in particular, I wanted to go over all the final leaks for the iPhone 8. And it turns out it might not be called the iPhone 8. So according to 9to5Mac, there's at least 2 case vendors that know the new nomenclature of the brand new iPhone. So rather than the iPhone 7S, we're talking about the iPhone 8. Rather than the iPhone 7S Plus, it's going to be the iPhone 8 Plus. And rather than the iPhone 8, it's going to be the iPhone Edition. Now, there was also talks with EvLeaks, him saying that the Edition is going to be just basically the best that there is of the iPhone. So it possibly could still be the iPhone X Edition, because there was a lot of talk about the iPhone X. But to me, that doesn't really sound like something that Apple would do, the iPhone X Edition. But they've surprised me before. I mean, they named their speaker the HomePod, which is kind of weird to me. So we'll just have to wait a couple more days before we actually find out for sure. Now, those same 2 sources are saying that the iPhone Edition is also going to have QI wireless charging, but at a reduced rate. So it's still going to work in like places like Starbucks that actually have those QI wireless pads, but it's going to charge at a reduced rate, meaning that you're not going to be able to unlock the full potential of QI wireless charging. So that's kind of unfortunate, especially if you're paying, premium price for a premium phone and the wireless charging isn't going to be really competitive with other wireless charging devices out there. It was also mentioned that all the new 2017 phones, so the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and the Edition, are all going to use the lightning cable. So the USB-C switchover is inevitable, but right now we seem to still have that lightning cable connector. They've also honed in on the actual glass that's going to be on the iPhones, and that's going to be Gorilla Glass 5. So this is the same glass that you're gonna see on the brand new LG V30, if you guys have seen that. So if these case makers are right, we can expect the iPhone to have a stainless steel chassis, a rear glass casing, a near bezel-less display with a notch at the very top for that, the speakers, the cameras, the sensors, facial recognition that's going to be replacing Touch ID, and the wireless charging that I just talked about. Now, just so you're aware, I'm gonna be calling the iPhone 8 the iPhone Edition for the rest of this video. So next, let's talk about price. A lot of people are going crazy about how much the iPhone Edition is going to cost, and I don't blame them, because there's been a lot of talk around the iPhone Edition at the highest storage capacity costing around $1,200. So the initial rumor was that it's going to start at $999 for a 64 gig device. Then it was going to go up to $1,100 for a 256 gig device, and then up to $1,200 for a 512 gig device. But UBS just came out with a new report stating that the iPhone Edition is probably going to start at $900. And there's only going to be 2 storage availabilities, and that's going to be 64 gigs and 256 gigs. So then we're talking about a device that starts at $899 for 64 gig and then goes up to $999 for 256. So if this is the actual case, that would be fine with me. Having an iPhone with 512 gigs would have been nice for all that 4K video that I want to shoot. But in reality, a cheaper base model of $899 and then the top tier being $999 puts it right there neck and neck, with like the Galaxy Note 8. Actually a little bit cheaper than the Galaxy Note 8, because that one starts at $930. Now, the reason that we were thinking that the iPhone was going to be a little bit more expensive than possibly it actually is if it starts at $899 is because of the OLED panel and who they're purchasing from. So the iPhone Edition display is expected to have a flexible OLED panel, an OLED touch panel, a 3D touch panel, and an OLED panel module. And Samsung is actually providing Apple with all of those panels except for the 3D touch module. So since Samsung is providing all of these panels, they can charge a premium for it. And KGI is reporting that they could possibly charge upwards of $120 to $130 for the panel versus what they previously paid at around $45 to $55, which were all LCD panels. There's also a supply chain report talking about the iPhone camera. And supposedly, Apple is starting to order camera modules that are greater than 12 megapixels. But according to the supply chain report, that's going to be for phones in 2018. So it's very likely that we're going to have the same 12 megapixel camera lens in the iPhone edition. Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be a lot of improvements to the camera, but the actual lens itself is probably going to stay the same in terms of megapixels. Now, if you haven't been keeping track of the iPhone news, there's actually going to be a new color for the iPhone edition, supposedly. And that's going to be what a lot of people are calling either copper gold or blush gold. Now, Benjamin Geskin, who has been leaking just a ton of new iPhone 8 and iPhone edition stuff recently, he just posted a picture showing the new SIM card trays for the iPhone 8. One of those being in this blush gold, while the other one seems to be in a silver color. And just so you can see a difference between the blush gold and the rose gold that we have on the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus, you can see the difference right here. Now, of course, with the iPhone edition, it's pretty clear that there's not going to be a home button on this device. So reports are saying rather than using the home button like we normally would, there's going to be a lot of that functionality actually in the power button on the device. There's reports saying that the power button actually won't shut down the device anymore, but it'll do things that the home button used to do. Things like taking pictures in the camera app or even invoking Siri directly by holding down on that power button or whatever they're actually going to end up calling it. Mr. Rambo is the one that actually tweeted out saying, "What if the lock button was actually used to invoke Siri?" And then somebody replied and said, "Did you find something in the source code?" And Rambo said, "I did find a gesture to invoke Siri using the lock button." Now, there's also been a leaked video showing a supposedly official Apple iPhone case. And on the back of that case, a hole, which seems to be for a Touch ID button. Now, personally, and a lot of other people think this is completely fake. The case actually looks pretty real, but at the same time, I just don't think that Apple is going to go through with putting a Touch ID button on the back of the device. That just doesn't sound like what they're going to do at this point. But if you zoom in on that case, you'll actually see that the leather wrapping around the back actually is kind of poor quality, and it's not something that Apple would actually push out. So that leads to everybody thinking that it's fake, not to mention everybody's pretty much said that there's not going to be a Touch ID button on the back of this device. So my question to you guys is, are you happy with the design and what you're going to see in the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and Edition? And if so, which one do you plan on picking up? And if you don't plan on picking up an iPhone 8 or an iPhone Edition, what phone do you have? What phone do you use? Let me know in the comments below. I'm actually really eager to see how many people use Android devices but still watch these iPhone videos. I'm actually pretty curious. All right, guys, that's all I got for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button. If you guys ever want to see my face again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace! And this was discovered by Guilherme. And this was discovered by Guilherme. And this was discovered by Guilherme.
It's Italian. It's Guilherme.
And this was discovered by Guilherme Rambo. and this was discovered by Guilherme Rambo. I can't say his name.